What's up, guys? It's Mike for SimRacing 604. Welcome back to my garage. Welcome to the lab where we create all our content. I create all my content for SimRacing 604. So today I'm going to be talking to you about wheels, different wheels. So I've owned 3 wheels now in my sim racing history, 3 force feedback wheels, that is. I had at least 1 non-force feedback wheel before, and yeah, I want to talk about these 3 here and just kind of do a compare and contrast, talk about the good of each and some cons as well. So we will start over here with the first force feedback wheel I owned. This is the G29 by Logitech. Cord is hooked up there on a nail, and pay no attention to this guy here. This is a console. I know that's a bad word to a lot of you, so please ignore it and please continue to subscribe to my channel in spite of me console racing from time to time. This is the G29 racing wheel by Logitech. As explained, it is gear drive as opposed to belt drive of the T300 or direct drive of this AccuForce behind me, meaning that it has gears in the inner workings here to help translate the motor power to the wheel and give that force feedback. In the sort of hierarchy of how force feedback works and the different motors, gears, etc., gear drive is considered lower down on the scale overall. So typically this is regarded as the lowest of the 3. However, it is not without its pros. So this G29, as I said, it was my first foray into force feedback wheels, and I really had a great time with it. I bought this used for about $200 Canadian. So you can convert that, was that 150 US, whatever it is, including pedals and a shifter. So if you look in your local Craigslist or local, used electronics listings, you might be able to find one of these for cheap as well. If you're in the market for your first force feedback wheel, this is not a bad choice. As you can see by that PlayStation logo in the middle there, it is compatible with console, which is really cool, and even has the console buttons here. Another pro that I like about this wheel that I actually lost by going to the T300 is this rotary knob here. I really like the idea of having a rotary knob with an enter button. This would be great for things like let's see, KERS deployment, something like that in a modern F1 car in sim racing. That would be very cool. Plus minus buttons here, also very, very well thought of. It's good for something like brake bias or something like that. You have a plus, you have a minus. Very, very obvious what it all does, and a host of other buttons. Overall, on the scale, let's just assume for a second that my older non-force feedback wheel on the 1 to 10 scale is about a 1. Let's say it doesn't get any worse than that, and then 10 is perhaps the Leo Bodner direct drive wheel. I would put this thing at a probably about a 5 or a 6. I really enjoyed it. I had a great time with it. And value-wise, again, you can find these used in good shape. It is very, very good. Extreme good value for it. You do lose a lot of fidelity with the gear drive as opposed to even a belt drive, so don't expect perfect force feedback. But again, if we're talking value, if we're talking a starter wheel, the G29 is very, very good. It's retailing now without the shifter for roughly, I saw it in a store today actually, for 500 Canadian. I think you can do better than that through Amazon sales and whatnot. But yeah, you can expect to pay probably around the 300 to 350 US mark for a new G29 wheel. I will note one thing with this wheel. Even though I had a great time with it, something happened towards the end. One of the reasons I changed to a Thrustmaster is this thing started calibrating cocked. It would calibrate to that, and I would just have to unplug it, plug it back in, and then it would calibrate properly. I don't know what happened there. I couldn't get it to fix. As many times as I unplugged it, it would always go back to normal. But if I shut down my PC or shut down my console and started it up again, inevitably it would cock. So I had to actually unplug it, plug it back in to get it to work properly. So overall, the G29, again, probably about a 5 on the scale of 1 to 10. Not tremendous force feedback, but as a starter wheel, it's very, very good and very versatile as well. You can use it on console, has a lot of buttons. Again, this rotator knob. Take note, wheel manufacturers, we like those. Those are great for selecting things on the screen without actually having to reach for our controller or our keyboard. So that'll do it for the G29. Next up we have the T300 RS. So this is a Thrustmaster product, and as you can see, I kind of have a bias to this guy once again, and bought another PlayStation compatible wheel. Now this often gets thrown in the same sort of comparison chart as a Fanatic wheel. As you can see on my table, I don't own Fanatic wheels. If Fanatic is watching this and they want to send me one to demo, I would love to do another comparison video, but for the time being I do not own Fanatic. I own Fanatic pedals, but not a wheel. The T300 RS is a belt drive, belt and gears, as opposed to just gears, so it is a lot more smooth in how it moves and how it reacts when you're actually in your sim. Good selection of buttons here. What do they call this, a POV hat or something like that? Up, down, left, right, but no wheel, no plus minus buttons, so we're giving it up a bit there. Nice shifters here, good feel to it. This thing, a lot of people ask me, is it loud? Actually, two questions I get asked quite often about my T300. Is it loud? I don't find it that loud. Of course, I don't live in an apartment or anything like that. I happen to have my own house, so noise is not that critical. If it was obscene, I'm sure my family or my neighbors would have an issue. It's definitely not obscene if you run it for long enough and let it get hot. There is a secondary fan that kicks in that makes it a bit louder, but it's not too bad. I overall really like this wheel. Now keep in mind, at the T300 level, which is about price competitive with the G29, maybe slightly more expensive, if we're going on that 1 to 10 scale, I would rate this a bit higher, probably a 6 if the G29 was a 5, maybe a 7. What was I going to say? This is actually a competitive level wheel, so you'll see some, not all, but some highly ranked sim racers running this wheel. The T500 is based, not based, but has a lot of parts in common with this, and you see a lot of T500s in competitive sim racing as well. So the T300 is a very good wheel from Logitech. Again, you're in that $350 range. You can look for it on sale. You can find some good deals. We'll get into pedals in a different video, but I did not like the stock pedals that came with a T300, so I upgraded to the T3PA Pros, but this does come with a 2-pedal set. The G29 comes with a 3-pedal set, but again, I'll get into that in a different video. But overall, the belt drive made this a lot smoother, better force feedback in my opinion, than the G29, but still, you know, room for improvement. From what I hear, the Fanatic is a lot smoother and perhaps would answer the needs of those more into accurate force feedback, but I drove with this one for a really long time. The second question I was going to say that people ask me about my T300, is it reliable? Answer is yes. I drove with this for a long time. I put in a lot of hours on this thing. I've had no issues. You don't have to look very hard online to find a story of somebody who had a broken T300, and you see that a lot. Is it reliable? Is it reliable? I can only speak for myself. I've had zero issues with it. It's been fantastic. But again, anecdotally, you do see a lot of stories online about T300s breaking down. I think you're safe personally based on my experience, but again, I can't speak for every T300, and yeah, it's there are a lot of stories out there, unfortunately, about these things breaking, but for myself, it has been nothing but awesome, no issues whatsoever. Lastly, actually, that has now been relegated to my console steering wheel, so I'll just leave it there. Lastly is some part of my new direct drive wheel. So the SimXperience AccuForce V2 is this guy. This is the wheel that came with it. I bought this on a Black Friday sale, and for the first 5 people, I think they got a Momo wheel. But this is just the AccuForce base wheel, suede wrap. Sorry, by the way, this is, I guess this is a kind of a plasticky feel, and the G29 was actually leather wrapped, so a bit nicer on the hands with the G29. Forgot to mention that earlier. The AccuForce, something I want to talk about here, actually first I'll talk about the direct drive. So on our 1 to 10 scale, I think you could comfortably rate this a 9. I'm just settling into it now, kind of getting the settings dialed in, and it feels phenomenal. It is so different than either a gear drive or a belt drive wheel. It is so smooth, stronger than you could ever want it. and just I really couldn't be happier with this. From what I hear, the Leo Bonder is even a level above the AccuForce, but for me, this is good. I mentioned it's strong. This comes with a 13 Newton meter motor. You can get other ones. I know Gamer Muscle was talking, actually, I'll give him a shout out. Gamer Muscle, awesome channel, love the channel. He was talking about how his, I think it's called a Simplicity wheel, his direct drive wheel, comes in two flavors. The 28 Newton meter, which is enough to rip your shoulders from your body, and the 20 Newton meter, which is just enough to rip your hands from your arms. I'm going to say this 13 Newton meter is enough to rip your fingers from your hands. It is very, very strong. If you're going to buy a direct drive wheel, I don't recommend making it a contest of how many Newton meters you can possibly purchase. 13 Newton meters, I'm a pretty big guy, and when I first booted this up, I left it raw. I left everything how it was by factory, and I was two-handing it. I was trying to muscle this Porsche around a Corsa in Assetto Corsa, and it's way stronger, in my opinion, than anybody would really want their force feedback. So 13 Newton meters, more than enough for anyone. Another thing with the direct drive, in addition to being strong, you also feel everything. The motor reacts so fast. The way this all works, by the way, the gear drive and this belt drive in the T300 takes the motor and it translates through belts and gears into the motion of the wheel. However, with the direct drive, it is exactly that, is a direct drive. So this has a quick release, snaps basically right onto the motor, and the servo motor, that is, and then you are working against the motor, so you can dial up the strength of that motor or down. The motor reacts nearly instantly. I can't remember how many times per second it refreshes, but it is near perfect. When you drive over a curb, there's no loss to strength, but yet you feel every bump of the curb. It's really, really fantastic. As far as the build quality here, just feels like a better wheel. Some problem, I was going to show you guys. Like I said, I'm a pretty big guy. My hand just about covers the entire T300. So I always wanted a bigger wheel. Finally, when Black Friday sale hit, I got this, and as you can see, it dwarfs my hand. That extra few inches, let's see, 10 centimeters, whatever it is, really, really helps me. This feels more like what I drive day to day. It's big. Carbon fiber shifters, I don't know why. It's not like I was complaining about the weight of the aluminum in the T300 or the G29. It was fine, but cool to own carbon fiber. This is the only carbon fiber I own, and if you're a car fan, you love carbon fiber, that's all there is to it. Lots of buttons here to play with. This comes as part of the AccuForce V2 Pro V2, whatever it is, package. So let's see, 12 buttons on this thing, and I believe this is a button as well for the horn. Comes with a quick release, and again, it just feels so much different, so much better than either my G29 or my T300. It really is on the next level. The reason I do not have the base here, guys, number one, it's in two parts. The T300, the G29 kind of come all in one, so your motor and your intelligence is all packed behind the wheel. Then you just plug a USB and a power cable in to your computer and your wall, respectively, or your power bar, and you're good to go. This thing actually comes with two boxes associated with it. One, the control box, which has two USB cables attached to it, and power, and then the servo motor, which is connected via a lead cable, whatever you want to call it, snake cable perhaps, back to that control box. And the servo motor is so strong, again, only at 13 Newton meters, that I have to actually bolt it to my rig, and my rig is actually a custom build with 2x4s and 3/4 inch plywood, so when I bolted it down, it's very, very difficult to get off. So I've left it there. You will need that. That's something that's important. If you're thinking about buying a direct drive wheel, make sure your rig can accommodate it. Do some research online. Find out. Make sure that your rig is strong enough to withstand a direct drive wheel. I really can't, even at 13 Newton meters, I really can't overemphasize how strong this thing is. If you have a weak rig, if you have sort of a lower end rig, you will probably get really bad shaking if it doesn't just tear it to pieces. There's been some horror stories about people, getting injured wrists and things like that. I could definitely see that. There's a lot of power behind this AccuForce Pro V2. It hasn't been my experience. I've been strong enough to withstand it. Certainly in something like Race Room, there are violent moments. If you hit a curb wrong, it will jerk the wheel, and to the best of my strength, I cannot hold it back. So there's a whole lot there. So again, I personally haven't been injured, and I don't see myself getting injured anytime soon, but just be warned, if you are a smaller person, somebody who, doesn't have a lot of experience driving, something like that, this could be too much wheel for you. And again, if your rig can't handle it, do not buy a direct drive wheel. I suspect Fanatec will be coming out with their direct drive wheel sometime, maybe 2018, probably 2019. I'm thinking, because it's going to be more quote-unquote consumer grade, I'm thinking they're going to come in at a 10 Newton meter torque level, which I think is perfect. I think that's just about right. So you may want to hold on for that. I paid $1,000 US for this. Again, I paid, let's see, $200 Canadian for my G29. And for my T300, I think it was closer to 400 Canadian. So this is more expensive than my second most expensive wheel by a factor of 3 to 1. Now, very important question, is this 3 or 4 times better than this? In my opinion, it is not. And don't get me wrong, I love it. I wouldn't go back for the world. I have this, as I told you, connected to my console, and when I drive my console, it feels lacking. I love this direct drive wheel. I love the AccuForce. Can't say enough good things, but I guess 2 important points here. Again, number 1, it is not, in my opinion, 3 to 4 times better. It's not like if you're, probably if you're going from a, I don't know. Actually, I won't even name them, but a very low-end wheel to something like this, the price jump is worth it. However, for the massive price jump between this and this, I don't, in my opinion, you're not getting something 3 or 4 times better, but you are getting something fantastic. And second point on that, will it make you faster? More consistent possibly, but please, 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 if you're going to buy a direct drive wheel, do not buy it under the premise that it is going to make you some superstar of sim racing, because it's really not. I'm an okay driver. I have moments where I'm good, never moments where I'm great, and it's been no different since I fired this direct drive wheel up. I'm still just a good driver at best, probably fair. So do not try and buy your way into being excellent at sim racing. Please get better, practice, laps, 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 laps. Watch videos on how to, take racing lines properly, things like that. That's the only way you're going to be a great sim racer. But I'm not trying to put a downer on this AccuForce. I love it. I love it. I bought it as kind of a splurge. I got a little holiday bonus through work, and sim racing right now is my favorite hobby. So I just decided to use my holiday bonus to buy myself something cool. So I got this and some pedals, which again I'll show you in a separate video. But for now, this is what I have, and I absolutely love this direct drive wheel. So in summary, guys, the G29, really good value. Look for one used if you're looking to start into sim racing. You can get some good deals on it. Comes with some really good pedals, really good out-of-the-box pedals, that is. And I had some really good times with that G29. I then stepped up to the T300, which you're seeing here. It's a belt drive as opposed to the gear drive of the G29. I liked it. Again, you can be competitive with this thing. G29, you could probably be competitive as well, but more commonly you see the T300 or its kind of brother, the T500, being competitive in online sim racing. So this is a very, very good wheel, slightly more expensive than the G29. Big competitor is going to be Fanatec. Fortunately, I can't rate the Fanatec because I do not own it, but big step up. Finally, the AccuForce. I love this thing. If you can afford it, go ahead and buy it. Don't expect, like I said, for it to be 2 or 3 times better than this. It is definitively better and awesome. What an experience. But at the same time, don't expect it to be yeah, that much better. It doesn't scale linearly, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But I love this AccuForce. Wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Thank you guys so much for sitting here with me for these 20 minutes. AccuForce Pro V2, T300, G29, all good wheels. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.